My name is Barrett Ragsdale, and this is my presentation on school climate. And most of you in here took my survey the other day that addressed issues with school climate. And this is for my EFD 615 school climate assignment that I'm doing right now in my EDS program. So I want to talk a little bit about today. I want to talk about several areas that affect school climate. There's a lot of areas that can affect school climate. School climate is the quality, the overall quality of life at school, or the experience that students get when they are at school. And a little background information before we get started. This is my survey participants, had 15 participants. The average number of years teaching was 19 and a half, or is 19 and a half. And then the education level there on the end, 5 bachelor degrees, 9 masters, and 1 doctorate. So the first area that I want to discuss that has a very heavy impact on school climate, and something that's probably heavily on our minds this time, is school safety. Question number 1 says, this school is a safe place to work. 13% agreed, 61% agreed, 13% strongly agreed, and 26% were not sure. So I had to figure the not sure, all of us within the last 2 weeks have probably thought a little bit about school safety, given the violent attacks we've had at several schools in the last few weeks. So that's probably been on our mind. We'll talk about that. Another question, question 13, says some children carried guns or knives in this school. They say the stats, 20% disagreed, 40% were not sure, and then 27% agreed and 13% strongly agreed that students are carrying guns or knives to school. So I want to talk about a few simple methods that we can increase school safety, and they don't all necessarily have to do with weapons at school. But I think these are the simplest steps that we can take to make this place a safer zone. So building a school climate, first of all, we need to have a crisis plan in place. If something like attack was to happen on school, or active violence, intruder, and we do the lockdowns on a monthly basis, the fire drills, severe weather drills, but could we be more efficient in that, practice them on a more regular basis? How can we become more efficient at that? So in the case of the real thing, our students and staff members can react appropriately. The second thing is we utilize prevention strategies. And the crisis plans are prevention strategies, but I'll talk more about an individual basis. First of all, a prevention strategy that we do, and we do and we don't think about it, but we need to be more conscientious about it, is being on duty. If you are brake duty, hall duty, parking lot duty, we can cut off a lot of acts of violence or inappropriate behavior just simply by being present at some of these areas. We also, 90% of you that completed the survey, 90% of you said that you actively engage in talking about bullying with your students or handle bullying situations. And that's very important, because you get that before it comes to a head and becomes a major problem. If we know our students are engaged with our students and we can tackle this before it becomes a big problem, that is also a way that we can prevent these things from happening. The last thing, and it kind of correlates with that last point, is positive student and teacher relationships. Now, it's very fitting that last week we talked about implementing the REACH program, and what that program is going to do is going to pair students up with a mentor for a long period of time. So students are going to be the same mentor for, let's say, 5 years. And the hope is these students feel like they can confide in somebody if they need to talk to someone, if they need to alert somebody of something going on, some kind of violence or active violence or illegal substance at school. That could also help alleviate some problems and make it a safer environment. Okay, so like I said, there are some simple areas of school safety. The second area I want to talk about is parental support. Question 17 says parents are supportive of the school and its activities. So 54% agreed, 19% strongly agreed, and 27% were not sure about parental support. But I want we think about extracurricular activities and we think we have a pretty supportive community, but let's think on the classroom level as far as what's going on educationally. How can we increase parental involvement? Okay, and I want to say First of all, this question right here, it goes with this, because a lot of us as teachers sometimes say, well, these parents don't even care, or their parents don't care about their education. They're never up here. We look at that negatively, okay? And we as an educator, they look at that in a more positive light. We just take a different viewpoint on that. So there are ways that we can increase parental involvement. It's important. And I want to answer this second question here, do parents even care anymore? Well, we need to act as though every parent cares, every parent wants to know. Maybe the problem is they're misinformed. And I'm going to use this example. I was talking with several staff members that have children in elementary school about the Scantron test that we had administered, and they weren't even sure what the test consisted of or the purpose of the test. So if we have staff members that are not sure what their kids are being tested on, what's the possibility of just your average parent knowing what's going on, okay? So it's important that we communicate with parents, okay? So we need parents to know what we expect from them as well as their kids so we can take this information and move forward. I want to read this quote from Park Stone Holloway. It says, school improvement hinges on fostering a culture of communication and cooperation between school, staff members, and parents. So two key words out of this is communication and cooperation. You can't have one without the other. So it's important that we effectively communicate with parents what we want them to know, what we expect from them and their children, and then we can expect cooperation. But if we don't communicate, we can't expect cooperation in return. So I've put up here some simple ways that we can increase parental involvement. Using simple technology apps such as Remind, posting a blog for your classroom, having a Facebook or Twitter for your specific area, for your parents, not just kids, for your parents and kids. We create more avenues for parents to be involved in. You can't just throw one out there and expect it. It's kind of like using differentiated instruction in the classroom. You can't expect one thing to harness all parents. You got to put multiple avenues out there for them to become involved and know what's going on. So this is key to improving our school climate, is getting parents involved from the get-go. The last area is professional development, and this, hones in right on us here as educators. I would benefit from more professional development provided by the district. We all do professional development. We're required to do certain amounts, but is the professional development we're partaking in useful? We've all been to good professional developments. We all have been to bad professional developments. So 60%, 80% of you agreed in some capacity that we could benefit from it, okay? Whether you strongly agree or just agree. But I want to look at if we do professional development on a school basis, okay? Meaning what is specific for Spring Garden School. It could have a positive impact on student achievement, culture, and I want to look at this flow chart here. If we have a school-specified professional development opportunity that addresses critical areas and that also aligns with the goals that we have established here at Spring Garden, it will in turn create a better classroom and structure and could possibly lead to student achievement increases. Better student achievement leads to positive culture. Okay, that's one area that we can help boost that. Okay, so all these areas are about being positive, boosting our morale, making our climate more effective. One last statement I want to leave you with when you're thinking about all these areas, these three areas that I shared with you. School improvement is an endless succession of incremental adjustments. And what that means is simply you can never rest. Okay, you got to be diligent. You're changing on the fly. You're always tweaking these programs. Whether we're talking about school safety, parental involvement, professional development, that's just three that we looked at here today. We're going to always have to be adjusted to better fit our needs here as a faculty and staff at Spring Garden School. So, thank you all for your time, and I look forward to discussing these three areas with you in the future. Thanks.